Hey, hello everyone. Today is the 1st of March, March 1st. Welcome to March, everyone. We're back into the digital world. This is probably going to be a shorter stream, or maybe it won't. We'll see how long it takes for me to actually explain this process. But basically what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the drawing that we've done on canvas, and I'll show you that because I have 3 different programs open now. So this is Adobe Lightroom, and I wanted to bring the Creative Cloud plans up, and I wanted to show you something, kind of a tip here, because Adobe hides this. It's kind of like they don't want you to know about it. So if you look at the Adobe Creative Cloud plans, and the reason why I'm showing this is because this is what I'm subscribed to, and I use it every single day. It's a huge part of my workflow. I've tried to remove Lightroom and Photoshop from my workflow, but there are just a couple tools that are just really good. But if you come in here, you'll see that the photography plan that they have showing at the top is $20 a month. That's twice as expensive as what I'm paying for. But if you search, and actually you can't even see it here. Individuals. Maybe you go to photo. There it is. So you have to go to the photo tab here to the left, and then they show the photography 20 gigabyte. So this is for their storage online. And honestly, I don't use it. You don't need it as long as you have enough storage. Good morning, Thinker. As long as you have enough storage on your computer, which most of us have for all these images and things, or you buy an external hard drive and it's only $9 a month, then this is for Lightroom and Photoshop. I think it's well worth it, and I'm going to try and show you why. Especially when you're taking photos of your artwork, your paintings and things like that. It's invaluable in a lot of ways. It's a time saver and helps out tremendously. So I'm going to try and show you why this is important and describe to you what I'm going to be doing. So I want to take this photo here that we took. I took this photo with my DSLR camera. I have a EOS R. You don't need a camera that costs that much. I think it was like $1,300 when I paid for it. But like an SL1 or an SL2 or Canon M50, something with a lens on it. Something with like a 50 millimeter lens or above is what you need. Actually, there are some newer smartphones out that have a more flat profile lens rather than a wide angle lens. What you want to stay away from is a wide angle lens, or else you'll get a lot of distortion. And we want to try and remove all the distortion today. Because what you'll find with oil paintings, that there's a ton of glare all over them. Now, if I zoom into this, most of this is kind of streaks from when I painted over the painting underneath. But some of this is also glare that you see. I got rid of most of it, pretty much 90% of the glare, because I took it at an angle. So you can see that this canvas is in perspective. And what I use Lightroom for in this scenario is to remove that perspective. So I took 4 photos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip through these and we're going to figure out which one we're going to use. So this is 1. This is number 2, which is a bit darker. Could work better. Number 3, that's a bit too light. As you can see, we got some, could be fine. Number 4, too dark. So I'm going to hit X for any one of these that I don't want while I'm selected on them. And we're going to go for number 2. Now, when you hit X, you actually reject them. And then you can hold Control and hit Backspace, and it'll say You can delete these from Lightroom or delete them from disk. And I'm just going to delete them completely, because we can do everything we want with this photo here. First thing we're going to do is fix perspective. And I guess, you know, the one thing that I didn't go through on here is how to import your photos into Lightroom. That's going to be up for you to figure out. It's fairly easy to do. You hook up your camera to your computer, you go down to the left here and you hit import, you find your camera, and then you import what's on it. If you're using a Canon camera, they have a whole other importing software. And then at that point, you would just import from a folder on your computer. But we'll go to the Develop tab. That's all the way up at the top right. And this will give you a lot of controls over to the right here. So we got tone curve, HSL, color grading, detail, lens correction, transform, effects, and calibration. We're going to go to the transform. And I'm sorry, this is kind of small. I wish I could zoom in on it pretty quickly and easily, but I haven't set anything like that up. But under the transform area, you'll see a little button called guided. And when I click on that, it's going to give me this crosshair with a little zoomed in version of that crosshair as well. Now this is where we're going to fix the perspective. So if I take my crosshair and I put it over the edge of the canvas, I can see that I'm right on the edge of the canvas. And then I can click and hold, and it'll give me this awesome line. I can drag this line anywhere, okay? And what we want to do is drag it to the other end of the canvas, right on the edge, and then let it go. So what we're doing is we're telling the computer, we're telling Lightroom where the edges are, where this perspective lines are. And we'll do horizontal first. So I'll come down here to the bottom edge, bottom left, right on the edge, click and hold, go to the other edge, and then let up. And you can see that was a huge fix. It just aligned the entire photo to the horizontal top and the horizontal bottom that we identified. Now we're going to do the left and the right. So left side, click and hold, all the way to the right, let go. That was another fix. And this one will be a slight fix, just not so much. Yep, there it is. And then I think you hit enter. No, you just kind of click away from it. So we'll click over here to the right. We're actually going to crop now. So there's a crop overlay icon here, or you can press R. So it'll take our perspective fix. And the first thing I want to do is there's a little lock icon, and right next to it, it says original. And I want to switch this to 2x3. The reason why I do that is because sometimes when you fix the perspective on your painting, it could change the size, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I've locked this aspect ratio of my crop dialog, and I'm just dragging the edges down. I've locked the aspect ratio of the crop dialog so that we can make sure that it's the right size, which it is. It's right on. So we didn't change the size on this, which is good. And I'm going to try and leave just a tiny bit of edge of background around this whole painting. I don't like cropping all the way into the painting. This gives me, you know, maybe a little tiny bit of room to see, you know, the edge of the painting. Then we can hit enter and that crop's going to go in. So if I zoom all the way in, you can see I have just a bit of an edge there. Hey, Ulan. Good morning. Welcome to the stream. I can catch you up on what we did. Actually be a good refresher. Basically, I'm using the $9.99 version of Adobe Creative Cloud, which includes Lightroom and Photoshop. It's $9 or $10 a month. Actually, it comes out to like $11.20 after tax. This is American, so it could be different, whatever country you're living in. hopefully cheaper. And I took the photo into Lightroom, used the transform guided tool to fix all the perspective within it, and then also cropped it down. Now, one thing I will say is I used the edge of the canvas to do this, and that, now I'm thinking about that could be a problem. Usually what I do is I use the lines on the canvas. Let's do that one more time. I'm going to do it over again, okay? We want to make sure that this is as flat as possible when we compare it to our flat digital image. So I'm going to go to transform, turn it off, and then hit guided again. It's going to give me this nice zoomed in version thing. And the hard part about doing this is finding the lines. So I'm going to find a couple lines. As close to the top as possible. These are the lines that I drew on the canvas, my grid lines. There's that one. There we go. So same kind of fix. This is going to be a little bit better because we're actually aligning with what we've drawn on the canvas rather than the edge of the canvas. It's kind of like what I was saying yesterday. You cannot trust the edges of canvases to be square. Unless you're like Thinker and you've cut the boards yourself. Actually, I think that's the edge of the tree that I'm aligning to. No worries. Like if I let go of that and it's not where I want it to be, I can always move it around and find the line that I want. Let's go all the way up here. That's the line that I want. I'm going to make sure that this one is on what I want and not the tree. There, right there. Okay, so that's good. Now we're going to go to our crop dialog. Let's make sure that it's set to 2:3, that aspect ratio. See if there's any size change. And then crop in. This is a very important step. If you look at my art when I started about 10 years ago, one of the first things I started doing within the first month is comparing my drawing with the photo I was taking. And I figured out really quickly that if you take a photo with a cell phone, this is, 2013. Cell phones are still pretty new then. You get all kinds of distortion. And I realized, okay, this isn't going to work. I need better tools for that. They didn't have these kind of tools that long ago. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bump up the contrast like crazy. This is going to really bring out all of those lines. I'm going to drop down all the highlights. This will take care of a lot of glare. Now it's a bit dark, so I'm going to bring up the exposure as well. Not too much because I want the contrast lines to be there. We can zoom in and look at how clear all these lines are, right? When I took a picture of this, it was with my DSLR. I made sure, because this canvas was at an angle, that my aperture was pretty wide, probably like 8, f8, something like that. That way I didn't get any blur going across the canvas because I took it at an angle. But you need to take oil painting pictures at an angle to get rid of all the glare, honestly. Unless you have dual polarization, which I won't get into. Okay, now we can go back to the library tab. This is a flat image, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to right click on it, edit, and edit in Adobe Photoshop 2023. And this is, I use Photoshop for 2 things. To make thumbnails, because Krita is terrible at text, and to take the images like this and export them into a different format so that Krita can use them. So I'm not going to really change anything in here. I'm just going to go to File, Export, Export As. It's going to show up as JPEG here. Yep. And then we're going to do full quality. export. And then we're going to go into my folder, tiger painting. Actually, we'll do it in my daily art photos. Nope, I don't want that folder there. I'm very organized with everything. And today's the 1st. So I need to create a 03 folder. And what's today? 3687. That's 3,687 days of art consecutively. That's what that is. All right, now that we have our photo there, I can close Photoshop. I don't need to save that. I can close Lightroom. And now we're at our tiger painting in Krita. And then Control O to open. Go to wherever you save your photo you just exported. There we are. It's kind of cool. You can kind of do a really basic comparison like that. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to hold Control and hit A to select everything. Control C to copy everything. And then we're going to paste this right over the painting. There we go. And because this is a layered document, it's going to be pretty easy to line up the lines with what we have here. So Control T for the tiger painting. And we're just going to make it smaller. Actually, I'm going to hold Shift while I do everything so I don't mess up the aspect ratio. And we're going to line up the grid lines that are on the canvas. And let me zoom in for this. With the grid lines that are on our digital document. So the way to do this is you line up the very top left corner of what you've drawn on the canvas to the grid lines. And then you can use your overview tool to quickly go down to the bottom right. And this is I didn't draw the last line. So we'll line up that one. Oop, I didn't hold Shift. Let me Control Z on that one. Now what you want to do is go back and forth. These are actually lining up pretty good right away. One thing Krita does in order to save CPU cycles, I guess, to make it easier on your computer is while you're transforming something, it will blur it out. Okay, let's move through the image. So you can see that a lot of these lines are kind of off in some way. Oh, this one's way off right there. What I might do is I'm going to bring my grid back up. And I'm going to redraw that last line. Dockers, grids and guides. Oh, good. It's already there still. And then hit B. Let's pick this red. Shift B actually is what we need. There you go. It's not, oops, I put that right on top of the painting. I want to make sure it's on the right layer. There we go. Not the exact same red, but it will do. It will do what we want. Okay. I can remove the grid lines now. Control T again on our painting, or drawing. And I think we're going to be lined up. There will be some differences. It's not going to be perfectly on there. The only thing you can do is, you know, going from top left to bottom right, you're going to get the sizes on, okay? What you could do is if you see, like I see every line is a little bit off, like it's a little bit higher than what I've drawn on the canvas. I can take the canvas image down just a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm just hitting the down arrow keys. And that will line up everything a little bit more. I mean, honestly, the most important thing is the tiger's head being lined up as much as we can. And that's good. I'm going to hit enter. We're going to get some clarity there. I don't need the grids anymore. I can turn that off. And what I don't need is I don't need the tiger anymore right now as well. Well, not for this next step. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer. We're going to get back to, and what I'm using here is the, well, it's Chris writing, but this is like I forget what they call it. It's one of the pins that comes with Krita. It's a very flat, just circular, that's all it does, but it's really small brush. So it's a really tiny brush. I'm going to hit 1, and this is what I'm going to do. We're going to, on this layer, we're going to outline all the major elements, but not perfectly. You don't need to go in here and do everything. See, that's even way too much. We're getting a general idea of the placement of everything. I don't need to worry crazily about everything. So we're not comparing this with the painting. It's too inaccurate. We're going to compare it with the lines that we're going to compare our drawing that we did on the canvas with the lines that I'm drawing right now. Because we want to get close, as close as we can with our drawing, with the understanding that as we paint, we're going to kill most of that accuracy anyways. Okay? But if we start out really close, it's just going to help us in the future. Probably the only thing that I'll get really accurate on is the most important parts of this painting, which is going to be the eyes. You know, these circles. And the stripes. All the eyeshadow. Let's do both the eyes. Now this is going to be interesting because on our painting, this section has, the size of it is pretty small. That's something you always have to think about. If you begin a painting digitally, and it's something that I planned for, I don't think I talked a lot about this, but I knew that if we made this composition the way it is, that if I didn't pick a big canvas like a 20 by 30, the tiger's head would be so small that I wouldn't be able to paint these little tiny eyes and make them look like anything. If it was any smaller, I would have had to get a really smooth canvas and really small brushes. Because there's so much detail here as far as the lines, the stripes on the tiger, this is going to be pretty interesting. What I'm going to do is outline the major stripes. I'm not going to hit a lot of the smaller ones. If I get the major stripes in within the painting, I can get the idea of where all the other ones are. These ones above the eye, I like those a lot. The ones that show the curve of the brow, I think those are really important. I'm going to make sure that those are right on. As you can see, I'm not worrying about just perfection here, okay? That's not what this is for. So the grid lines got us within the ballpark as far as the drawing's concerned. And here, you're in the ballpark, and if anybody has ever gone to a baseball game, what do? You go into the ballpark, and then you talk to some attendants there. and you say, hey, I'm in section A, row, blah, 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 seat, blah, blah, blah. And they get you to the next section. But they don't tell you exactly where your seat is. And this is what we're doing. We're just trying to get to the next section. So we're inside the ballpark with the grid. Now let's get to the next section. Finding the particular seat and where we need to sit down. This is an interesting analogy. But finding the very specific, exact drawing is going to be up to us as we paint. After we get to that section, we're going to be running normally, you know, and using our skills, our draftsman skills that we have. Really quickly here. It's completely up to you how detailed you get on this. And it's also important to use this as a tool. It's kind of like AI art right now. It's not so bad if you use it as a tool to help you produce, you know, more interesting work. But if you lean on it 100%, you say, this is how I do things, you will completely destroy your ability to draw accurately. And I'm doing all of these lines unnecessarily, except for these. This is some good form indication here. And I don't care about the lines on the tail. It's pretty simple and easy to take care of in painting. Now, getting these paws right, I'm going to get a little bit closer on these because I did not focus on the drawing on this one. Because it was pretty difficult with the drawing and the new setup that I have, I was like, oh, I'll just, you know, lean heavily on this process. It's something that is easy to do, and anything that is easy like that is not expanding your skills. So it's kind of like what I say with grids. You know, use grids as a tool, but try and move away from them. It's why I had a 2.5-inch grid rather than a 1-inch grid. Eventually you just get to a horizontal and a vertical line on your canvas, and that's all you need to get the drawing right. Or you say, you know, I don't need to worry about how accurate this drawing is. I can make a darn good looking painting even with the drawing inaccuracies. Okay. We get a bit of this rock in there. Now, this will be a shorter stream today, guys. Because after this process, you take it back to the canvas and you have a new digital image. And it's going to be all these red lines laid over your drawing. And you use those to make corrections. How many ever corrections you want to make? I think I'm going to keep the rest of it free. I don't need anything else. Let's save this, and now let's look at what this overlay looks like on our drawing. Let's see how bad my drawing is, how off my drawing is. I'm going to zoom all the way in. Interesting. So let's do this. Here's another thing you can do. I actually moved the canvas down a little bit. But can I move it up and get those eyes in place? I got the left eye in place. You can see how this is lined up now. But the right eye is a bit off. Yeah, I have some real inconsistencies. You see how what of a mess of lines this is? And I was talking about that yesterday. It can quickly turn into a mess of lines. But what's most important? The most important are the eyes here. Getting these and the kind of like the eye shadow around it. So the pupil of the eye, the iris itself, the outer shape of this eye, which actually I got that pretty close on. It's just the iris and the pupil is in a wrong place. That should be easy fix. And the nose is going to be really important. You can see I got the center line of the nose needs to be over to the left. Everything needs to be moved over. So that's a bit off. You see I was moving the right side of the cheek in, or this muzzle in. I didn't move it in enough. I could tell that that was off. Didn't know this needed to go out further. And even the chin is too small. Sorry about that. Looks like I had left on my Google backup. Sorry. Could you turn up the contrast on the charcoal layer to the extreme and then lower the opacity on the digital layer? I don't think you would see... Wait, I mean, we can try it, but... I think it would be... Well, let's see. A lot of times what happens, it depends on color. So if I go to Control U on the layer that I drew with, I can change it to a different color, like this yellow. And it's a bit easier to see. Yeah, sorry about the buffering, guys. It'll go away in a moment. I forgot to turn off my backup. Google Backup will kill your internet. It will keep your files back up, but it will also kill your internet. So that's actually let me Control Z that. Okay, I'm going to create a filter mask instead of... See, that's much easier to see. And it's so much easier that I could even take the opacity down on it. To see the comparison of lines. But again, get in here, and when we do this, I mean, this is abnormal to what I'm usually used to. All these crazy lines everywhere. Because usually with figurative work, you don't get stripes on the person's skin, right? But it's going to be super helpful for the major aspects of the tiger. And the one thing I would urge you to do is don't focus completely on, what you got wrong on this, okay? Focus on what you got right as well. This is probably one of the most important things that you can do to get objective feedback for your art, for your drawing. I would suggest everyone do this. If you do representational work and your goal is to get better at seeing and translating 3D to 2D, this is the most objective way that you can get an exact feedback. Because if you ask a teacher or someone that, like myself, that's trained in it, we'll look at it and we'll go, well, it kind of looks like this is off here and maybe that's off. Like we can tell some things are off, but it's going to be subjective. It's not going to be as objective as this. I mean, you can't get any more objective than, hey, your ear needs to move down in exactly this way. Or, great job on that eye, because that eye is perfectly on. Don't change that, these kind of things. Let's move down the body. You see how I tend to grow things like the width of the leg the length of the leg in a little bit. The paws are a lot larger. You figure out tendencies. Also, that's one thing I didn't do was outline the, turn this off, the whole leg of the tiger. See where this is. But you get to understand like objectivity or your tendencies on things you tend to do when you're drawing, especially with figures. I tend to start with a head shape that is exactly the right size, and then the body grows as I go down or as I expand away from that. And the foliage, these palm fronds really don't matter. I mean, that's the one thing, landscape painting is a lot easier, and well, in some ways. In drawing, it's a lot easier, except when you get with like definite things like trees, because you need to really observe those, or else they just look too wobbly. But I don't need to worry about making this palm frond exactly the way it is. I can use kind of ingenuity and differences to just have fun with that and get it close enough to make it look authentic. But yeah, that's it. That's how we check our drawing in the most objective way possible. And if you have any questions, ask them now, because this is going to be like a 45-minute stream today, so 15 minutes shorter than normal. A couple things I will say is we're going to take, this is going to be my next image that I'm going to save out. It's going to go up to Google Photos, and then I'm going to export it onto my iPad, and then I'm going to be working from this tomorrow and focusing on fixing this drawing, especially with the eyes and the nose and the muzzle. I've tried to do this same process with just Krita alone as a free software, and it doesn't have, I've tried multitude of free software. It doesn't have the same tools as Lightroom to be able to easily remove perspective. Maybe there's a way to do it within Krita. I'm not sure. I know there's a way to do it, but it's a bit more arduous and takes a lot of time. But I take artwork photos every single day, especially of my traditional pieces. I haven't done that in a while because I'm working a lot of digital. And the workflow, the quickness in the workflow is really important to me. And the ability to take it into Lightroom really quickly and fix perspective within, 30 seconds is very important. Ulan asks, any idea if this kind of thing is possible with any free tools? Oh, I was kind of talking about that. There is a way to do it with Krita. There is, when you go into transform something, like let's jump onto that later. If I go to Control T and I go to Tool Options, there is this option right over here. It's called Perspective, where you can warp things in perspective, but you're kind of at the mercy of the edges of the canvas, right? It's not changing the perspective within what's actually in the image. I honestly, I don't know. I think the best thing to do is to kind of research that and see, because I've tried, let me see. I've tried Krita. I've tried GIMP. I've tried, there's this one, I forget, there's a couple other ones I forget the names of. Different photo programming softwares that have perspective fixes. None of them have been as good as Lightroom, honestly. I mean, yeah, and if it's something you're not going to do very often, you know, maybe not get Lightroom, maybe, yeah, figure this out in Krita or someplace else and then let me know. I have trouble erasing charcoal lines or graphite lines cleanly on a rough canvas. Any suggestions? Yeah, you know, I haven't really... Okay, yes, I know how to do it. Okay, that reminds me. So charcoal will, you know, looks great on a stream, but I stopped using it because it was so dirty, okay? Because it gets everywhere. It doesn't stick as well as graphite, okay? And you may think, well, that's not helping me because it's harder to erase. And it is. Graphite is actually harder to erase, especially on a rough canvas. What you can do is use graphite, okay? And like what I normally do is I'll have a acrylic gessoed canvas that I'm working on with graphite, my graphite drawing. And if I have a bunch of lines on there that are just way off, I'll go back in with a smaller brush and that acrylic gesso and just paint over those lines. Wait for it to dry, which you could put a hair dryer on it and in like 2 minutes it's dry. And then, you know, draw that way. But you're right, using a kneadable eraser, using a white eraser, using any eraser, it's going to smudge all over the place and it's going to leave, you know, just kind of like we had here with what I was trying to erase on this cheek of the tiger. It's just a mess, right? The other thing you can do is just focus on your drawing and get really accurate, as more accurate as you can. That will take time. So the accuracy comes with time. Use a grid also, unless you're just freehand drawing. If you're sketching directly on, you can't really do that. Grids will get you there quicker, so you're not making a ton of lines and fixing. That will help out. That's another reason why I love digital. Starting out digitally and building up things digitally, that kind of helps all that, and then you can transfer it to canvas. The next thing I'm going to do is probably buy a projector and just project it onto a canvas. You know, drawings that I make completely, or photo images that I manipulate a lot. Just get them right onto the canvas. Ula, if you find a free Lightroom, let us know. Yeah. Yeah, well, if you're a student, Ulan, I think you're a student, and they have student discounts. Let's see what the discount is. So you can go here, students and teachers. Oh, they just do this one big package, so it's not really a discount. You get everything. But honestly, when I was a student, I actually took a course and you could actually get into that status of student and you could get everything for 20 bucks a month. But I found out that like I only use Photoshop and Lightroom. And it was just cheaper to get the $9.99 a month package on that. Yeah. Oh, an old woman. Okay. Awesome. Student of life. I know. If you're I mean, old is subjective, but maybe you're a teacher of life, depending on your age. Awesome. Thanks, Ulan. No, that's wonderful. It depends on how much you would use this, whether it's worth it or not. I wish I had other alternatives for you guys to fix that perspective. It's something that I can work on, but it won't happen anytime soon. Yeah, I think, you know, use the Googles as your friend on that one. How to fix perspective in Krita. I know I did some searching for it. I think I passed it up because it just took too much time, more time than Lightroom. Okay, so that's today. That's today's live stream. Not much happened here. Like I said, the next thing is going to be back to the canvas. And we'll have a full live stream tomorrow, but right now, I'm going to sign off. Unless I see any other questions pop up. I'll give it a couple moments as I drink some tea. So Chris, are you going to erase the lines or paint over the lines that are annoying? Good question. So the reason why I was hesitant to do charcoal, because I always do graphite, is because my initial drawing on graphite is always with like an HB, kind of like what these lines are on right now. You can see them when you're zoomed in this far. Couldn't really see them too well on the stream. And then I would come back with like 3 or 4B graphite after I drew everything in an HB. And the lines would be much darker. And it'd be very easy to tell the difference between the two. But now that I've used a 3B charcoal line, I'm not going to erase anything. Maybe I'll go into this with a kneadable eraser and lighten things up a little bit, try and pull some of that charcoal off, but then use that 3B again to really make some really dark lines. That's what I'll probably do. That's what I'm going to focus on. Try and get the lines, the corrected lines in there as dark as possible. There's always a possibility of redrawing using paint, but then I'd have to thin out paint and let that dry, and that would just take too long. So I'm not going to do it that way. It's just a lot easier with drawing implements. It's another reason why I don't draw in paint anymore. I used to start all my paintings just by drawing them out in paint. I did a whole series of drawing on the canvas in charcoal just to practice it, and I abandoned that. Let me see if I go to my daily art. I bet you I can bring this up somewhat fast. Let's go to probably around page 10, I would say. Oh no, it was well before that. Let's go to page 15. Maybe before that as well. But I used to draw out in oil, lines in oil. But what I found is that I was just spending so much time correcting. Here you go. So this is a whole series where I did nothing but on gray canvas, and I'm using a either that gel medium from Gamblin, the non-solvent gel medium, or one of those mediums, to thin out a burnt umber and just draw the figure with the brush on the canvas. You know, I start out rough with these and I get more and more exact with them as I go. It's kind of fun. You do this and you can use a lot of like dry brush techniques to get a lot of those values in, but just really focusing on drawing within, you know, on the canvas. It was kind of fun. But it turned out to be way too inaccurate for me, especially when you get to, you know, small heads and things. Oh, this is actually, that was a lot of fun. So I was in that stage and we was at a life drawing class, and we were outside and the model was posing. Actually, these turned out pretty good. Pretty fun. I'm pretty sure that those ended up in the garbage. All these paintings. Guys, you know, hundreds and hundreds of paintings just and drawings to get to where I'm at, and so much fun. This one was fun because, you know, I'm doing the drawing in graphite, but then added some white, or not graphite, but burnt umber with a brush, and then just did it from there. But you can do that. You can practice that a lot. You can work it up from here. Honestly, as I look at these now, I'm like, well, heck, I could probably go off of this and make a wonderful painting. And then there's some of them that I got really detailed on. So this ended up being a long-term painting, this figure here. The head's a bit too small. I can tell that right away. Yeah. But this is just a process that I built up. See, there's the painting that it ended up doing. But this is just a process that I've worked up over the years of what I enjoy. And you could see how exact, I guess, you know, realistic my paintings were at that point. And then I'm really kind of pull away from that later on into a more kind of painterly approach to things. It was really after this painting I did, after my kidney transplant, I did a self-portrait of myself in a mirror. And I really enjoyed the painterly aspect and all these colors within the skin. Just really pushed it on that one. And then from then on, I haven't really gone back. Just had so much fun with it. And just kind of breaking up color as much as I can. And now it's just all about me. All right, that's it for the stream. Yeah, I'll answer more questions tomorrow. But thanks, guys, for joining me. I appreciate you. And tomorrow's going to be fun because we'll finish up fixing this drawing. And then, that would be Thursday? Friday. We're going to start painting Friday. Oof, I can't wait. I can't wait. Painting on Friday. It's been too long. My paints have been sitting in my soak for like months, it feels like. And I need to get painting. Lots of fun stuff. That's going to be a fun stream. It'll probably be a long stream because I'm going to be talking about materials and then getting into painting. Okay, now I'm just rambling. All right, thanks guys. Have a wonderful day and I will see you tomorrow.